Hello guys, welcome to Potter Paradox. So in this video, we will see what if Harry was raised by the Addams family. Dark humor. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The boy who was adopted. The moon hung fat and orange over Godric's Hollow when the Addams family's rented hearse rolled to a stop on the outskirts of the village. Morticia peered through the window, her pale face illuminated by the eerie glow. "Gomez, darling, England has such a delightfully gloomy atmosphere. Don't you think it was perfect timing to vacation here for Samhain?" Gomez Addams took his wife's hand and kissed it passionately. "Tish, when you speak Old English holiday names." He moved to kiss up her arm. "It drives me wild." Later, "Mon cher," Morticia said with a smile that could freeze blood. "I believe there's something unusual happening tonight. I feel it in my bones." In the back seat, Wednesday Addams, all of 3 years old, stared emotionlessly at her baby brother Pugsley, who was attempting to eat a live spider. "Mother, Pugsley is playing with his food again." "Now children," Morticia turned, "remember what we discussed about proper etiquette in foreign countries? We only consume local wildlife after asking permission from the spirits of the land." A tremendous flash of green light suddenly illuminated the sky above a cottage down the lane. It was followed by a concussive boom that rocked the hearse. "Ah!" Gomez exclaimed, leaping from the car. "Local festivities. How marvelous. Do you think they're sacrificing something, Father?" Wednesday asked hopefully, climbing out after him. Morticia gracefully exited the vehicle, cradling Pugsley. "Whatever it is, it feels like powerful magic. The kind that tears souls apart. How romantic." The family approached the cottage just as the roof collapsed inward. The entire house looked as if a bomb had detonated inside. Smoke poured from the windows, and an unearthly silence followed the destruction. "Excellent special effects," Gomez nodded approvingly. "The English really know how to celebrate the thinning of the veil." A baby's cry pierced the night. Wednesday tilted her head. "That sounds real." Without hesitation, Morticia glided toward the ruined house, her dress flowing around her like living shadow. "Gomez, I believe a child is in danger." The Addamses found a path through the wreckage, stepping over the body of a man with untidy black hair and broken glasses without much concern. "Poor fellow seems to have had too much fun," Gomez remarked, poking the corpse with his cane. "Reminds me of Uncle Vlad after the garlic incident of '65. The crying led them upstairs to a nursery that was half destroyed. The roof had been blown away, and moonlight streamed onto the floor where a red-haired woman lay motionless. Beside her stood a crib, and in it, a black-haired baby boy with a curious lightning-shaped cut on his forehead, screaming his lungs out. "Mother, look," Wednesday pointed at the strange symbol floating above the house, a skull with a snake protruding from its mouth. "Can I have that for my bedroom?" "We'll discuss redecorating when we return home, Wednesday," Morticia said, approaching the crib. Her eyes met the baby's, and something passed between them, a recognition of sorts. The baby instantly stopped crying. He stared at Morticia with bright green eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. "Well, hello there, little one," she said softly. "What an extraordinary child." Gomez peered into the crib. "He has the Addams look about him, doesn't he, Tish? That glare of existential awareness." Indeed, Morticia carefully lifted the baby, noticing the bleeding cut on his forehead. "And he's already experienced his first brush with death. How advanced for his age." The baby reached out and grabbed a lock of Morticia's long black hair, tugging it hard enough to make any normal person wince. Morticia smiled. "Oh, he's perfect. Mother, can we keep him?" Wednesday asked, showing a rare flash of interest. "I've always wanted someone smaller than me to experiment on." "Now Wednesday, we don't experiment on family members without their consent," Morticia corrected gently. "But yes, I believe this child is meant to come with us. Tish, are you certain? Gomez asked, examining the destruction around them. Someone might be looking for him. Gomez, darling, look at the scene. Both parents dead, house destroyed, mysterious magical attack. She cradled the baby, who had begun playing with her necklace of deadly nightshade berries. The universe has practically gift-wrapped him for us. You know how I feel about questioning fate. Gomez grinned wildly. What shall we call our new son? Morticia noticed a monogrammed blanket in the crib with Harry embroidered on it. It appears his name is Harry. Harry Addams has a certain ring to it, doesn't it? Wednesday moved closer, studying Harry with clinical interest. He has a curse mark. Grandmother will be pleased. A crack of apparition outside caught their attention. Someone else had arrived at the scene. I believe it's time for us to leave, my dear family, Morticia said smoothly. Our vacation has just become much more interesting. Gomez swept his wife and the baby into his arms. To the hearse. Adventure awaits. The Addamses slipped away into the darkness with Harry Potter just minutes before Hagrid arrived to collect him for Dumbledore. Happy Explosions Day, Harry. Uncle Fester cackled, handing 7-year-old Harry a crudely wrapped package that was ticking ominously. Harry's face lit up with delight. Is it a bomb? Even better, Fester winked. It's a chemistry set I modified myself. Guaranteed to melt through at least 3 floors. Morticia glided into the room, carrying a pot of her prized hemlock. Fester, you know our policy about explosive gifts. Fester's face fell. No fun until after cake. Precisely. Morticia set down her plant and knelt beside Harry, adjusting his miniature suit that matched Gomez's perfectly. Happy birthday, my little nightmare. 7 years with us already. Harry hugged his adoptive mother tightly. Mother, Uncle Fester says my real parents were murdered. Is that true? Of course, darling. We've never hidden that from you, Morticia said matter-of-factly. They died in a magnificent explosion of dark magic. Very impressive, really. Do you think they'd be proud of me? Harry asked, an unusual moment of vulnerability crossing his normally stoic features. Morticia cupped his face with her long-fingered hands. Any parents would be delighted to have their revenge orphan raised by a family as loving as ours. Besides, you have the Addams spirit, regardless of blood. Remember what we always say. Sic gorgiemus allos subjectados nunc, Harry recited perfectly. We gladly feast on those who would subdue us. Excellent pronunciation, son. Gomez swung into the room on the chandelier, landing with a perfect flourish. Latin at 7. I wasn't conjugating death threats until I was nearly 8. Wednesday appeared in the doorway, now 10 and even more solemnly macabre than ever. Mother, grandmother's cauldron is boiling over, and I believe Pugsley is in it again. That boy, Morticia sighed. Gomez, would you? On it, Tish. Gomez flipped across the room and cartwheeled out the door. Wednesday approached Harry, holding out a small black box. Happy birthday, brother. It's a preserved bat heart. I noticed yours was getting worn out. Harry took the box reverently. Thanks, Wednesday. Did you curse it? Naturally. Anyone who touches it besides you will experience their worst nightmare. She paused, then added with the faintest hint of a smile, I tested it on Pugsley. Children, such thoughtfulness, Morticia beamed. Harry, why don't you show Wednesday that new trick you've been practicing? Harry nodded eagerly, his green eyes shining behind round glasses that had been Gomez's idea, makes him look distinguished, like a tiny serial killer. He stared intently at a nearby candle, his face scrunched in concentration. The flames suddenly flared 3 feet high, then turned emerald green. Impressive, Wednesday acknowledged, the highest praise she ever gave. My brother, the wizard. It just happens sometimes, Harry shrugged. Like when I made Mrs. Peterson's wig fly away when she yelled at me for bringing cockroaches to show and tell. The magical outbursts are getting stronger, Morticia noted with pride. Grandmother says it's quite unusual, even for magical children. Am I weird? Harry asked, looking between his adoptive mother and sister. Wednesday gave him a deadpan stare. Yes. That's why you fit in here. Your sister's right, Morticia smiled. Being unusual is an Addams family trait. We've always known you had special gifts, Harry. It's why fate brought you to us that night. A crash from upstairs, followed by Pugsley's delighted scream and Gomez's raucous laughter, interrupted them. Come, children, Morticia rose gracefully. Let's see if your brother has sprouted any interesting mutations from his cauldron bath. Harry stood in the graveyard behind the Addams mansion, practicing fencing moves with the rapier Gomez had given him for his 9th birthday. The stone angels and gargoyles made excellent opponents, standing still while Harry lunged and parried around them. Your form is improving, old man. Gomez called, striding across the graves with his own rapier in hand. But remember what I taught you about fighting dirty. Always aim for the eyes, except when the groin is available, Harry recited, adjusting his stance. That's my boy. Gomez beamed, taking position opposite Harry. En garde. Their blades met with a satisfying clang that echoed through the graveyard. Harry might have been only 9, but Gomez never believed in going easy on his children, it would only leave them unprepared for the world's many horrors. Harry ducked a swing from Gomez and rolled across a gravestone, popping up behind his father with his blade at the ready. I've been practicing with Wednesday. She says stabbing from behind is more efficient. Your sister always did have a practical mind, Gomez laughed, spinning to face Harry. Though there's something to be said for looking your opponent in the eyes as you run them through. They continued their duel among the headstones, Harry growing more confident with each exchange. He had Gomez backed against a mausoleum when a cold wind suddenly whipped through the graveyard, extinguishing the lanterns they'd set up. Both Addamses froze, sensing something unusual. Father, do you feel that? Harry whispered, lowering his rapier. Gomez nodded, his eyes scanning the darkness. We're not alone, my boy. A low moan echoed from behind a nearby tomb, and a silvery figure rose through the earth, a ghost, translucent and glowing faintly in the moonlight. Ah, Cousin Spectre. Gomez greeted cheerfully. Come to join our midnight training session. The ghost, however, wasn't one of the many Addams ancestors who haunted the property. This spirit was of a woman with long hair and sad eyes that widened when they fell on Harry. Harry, the ghost whispered, her voice like wine through dead leaves. My son. Harry stepped forward, rapier still in hand but no longer raised. You're my birth mother. Gomez placed a protective hand on Harry's shoulder. Well, this is unexpected. Though I suppose All Hallows' Eve is the perfect time for such a reunion. The ghost of Lily Potter drifted closer, reaching out with insubstantial fingers that passed through Harry's cheek when she tried to touch him. You've grown so much, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I never thought I'd see you again. Mother told me you died protecting me, Harry said matter-of-factly. She says it was a good death. Honorable. Lily's ghost looked startled, then smiled sadly. Your mother sounds wise, in her way. Oh, Morticia is the wisest of us all. Gomez declared. She knew from the moment she saw Harry that he was meant to be an Addams. You're the ones who took him, Lily realized, looking at Gomez. Not Petunia. Petunia? Harry frowned. Your aunt. My sister, Lily explained. Dumbledore intended to send you to her after we died. Harry shuddered. Is she interesting? Does she know about exotic poisons or how to communicate with the dead? Not exactly, Lily hesitated. Then I prefer the family I have, Harry said firmly, moving closer to Gomez. Lily's ghost studied her son, taking in his confident stance, the intelligent gleam in his green eyes, her eyes, and the distinct lack of fear at confronting his mother's ghost. "You seem happy," she finally said. "We Addamses believe in living life to its fullest," Gomez declared. "Or death, as the case may be. Harry has been a magnificent addition to our brood. Excels at explosives, shows remarkable talent with our torture devices, and can already converse with the family octopus in its native tongue." Lily looked bewildered but managed a ghostly smile. I'm glad you're loved. Would you like to meet the rest of the family?" Harry asked eagerly. "Wednesday would have so many questions about the afterlife, and grandmother might know a way to make you more corporeal." "I can't stay long," Lily said regretfully. "The veil is thin tonight, but it will close soon. I came only to see you, to make sure you were safe." "Safe?" Gomez laughed. "What would be the fun in that? But he is loved, Madam Ghost. On that, you have my word as an Addams." Lily seemed to consider this, then nodded slowly. "I can see that." She focused on Harry again. "There's so much I should tell you, about who you are, where you come from, the magical world." "I know I'm a wizard," Harry said. "Strange things happen around me all the time. Last week, I turned Pugsley's hair into snakes when he stole my favorite shrunken head." "It's more than that," Lily insisted, her form starting to fade. "You're famous in our world, Harry. The boy who lived. The one who stopped Voldemort." Harry and Gomez exchanged curious looks. "Voldemort?" Harry repeated. "That's who killed you." "The darkest wizard of our age," Lily said, her voice growing fainter. "He tried to kill you too, but somehow, you survived. That scar on your forehead, it's where his killing curse struck you." Harry touched the lightning bolt scar he'd always had. "A curse scar? Wicked." "I'm losing my connection." Lily's ghost was now barely visible. "Harry, be careful. He's not truly gone. And when you turn 11. Hogwarts, letter will come." With those final broken words, Lily Potter's ghost vanished completely, leaving Harry and Gomez alone in the graveyard once more. Gomez lit a cigar, puffing thoughtfully. "Well, my boy, it seems there's more to your origin story than we knew. A dark wizard, a killing curse, and you, a celebrity. Wait until your mother hears this." Harry picked up his rapier, swishing it through the air with renewed vigor. "Mother will be thrilled about the curse. And Pugsley will be so jealous that I met a real ghost. That's the spirit." Gomez clapped Harry on the back. "Now, let's go share the good news. A murderous dark wizard potentially returning from the grave. It's like Christmas came early." Albus Dumbledore paced his office, stroking his long white beard as he consulted a curious silver instrument on his desk. For nearly 10 years, this device had assured him that Harry Potter was alive and well, protected by the blood magic invoked by his mother's sacrifice. But something was amiss. The instrument showed Harry was healthy, thriving, even, but not at the location where he was supposed to be. "Albus," Professor McGonagall entered the office, a concerned expression on her face. "The Quill has finished addressing the Hogwarts acceptance letters for next year's first years." "And?" Dumbledore asked, already suspecting what she would say. McGonagall handed him a single envelope. "Harry Potter's letter. The address, it's not Privet Drive." Dumbledore took the envelope and read the emerald green address. "Mr. H. Potter Addams, the East Tower, bedroom 0001, Cemetery Lane, Westfield, New Jersey, United States of America, Addams." Dumbledore's eyebrows shot up in alarm. "That can't be right. I checked the magical registry," McGonagall continued. "It appears Harry Potter was legally adopted by a family named Addams shortly after, that night. The paperwork was filed both in the Muggle world and with MACUSA. How did we not know this?" Dumbledore set the letter down, suddenly feeling every one of his many years. Hagrid was supposed to bring him to Privet Drive. By the time Hagrid arrived at Godric's Hollow, the baby was gone, McGonagall reminded him. We assumed it was Sirius Black who took him, until Black was captured. Then you assured everyone that Harry was safe with his relatives. Because the tracking spells indicated he was protected by his mother's blood magic, Dumbledore murmured, examining the silver instrument again. But how? Unless what, Albus? Unless these Addamses have some connection to Lily that we're unaware of, Dumbledore mused. Or perhaps. His eyes widened. No, it couldn't be. McGonagall looked impatient. Couldn't be what? There are certain old families, Minerva, whose magic operates differently from our own. Older magics, blood magics, death magics. Dumbledore began searching through an ancient tome on his bookshelf. The name Addams sounds familiar in that context. Are you suggesting Harry Potter has been raised by dark wizards? McGonagall asked, horrified. Not dark in the sense you're thinking, Dumbledore replied, finding the page he sought. Ah, here it is. The Addams family, an ancient bloodline with ties to every known supernatural community in the Western Hemisphere. Not considered wizards by our definition, but practitioners of arcane arts even older than our own. Is that better or worse than dark wizards? McGonagall asked skeptically. It's complicated. Dumbledore read further. The Addamses have never aligned themselves with any Dark Lord or magical government. They exist outside our jurisdiction, following their own peculiar code. They're known to be fiercely protective of their own. And they've had Harry all this time, McGonagall whispered. The boy who lived, raised by a family of, what exactly are they? Eccentrics would be the polite term, Dumbledore said diplomatically. I believe we need to pay this family a visit before sending Harry's letter. I must see for myself what kind of environment he's been raised in. I'll accompany you, McGonagall said firmly. After all, I'll be his head of house if he's sorted into Gryffindor. Let us hope he takes after his parents in that regard, Dumbledore sighed. Though after a decade with the Addams family, I fear Harry Potter may be quite different from what any of us expected. The doorbell of the Addams mansion rang with a deep, funeral toll that echoed through the cavernous halls. Guests! Gomez exclaimed from the living room where he was helping Harry practice throwing knives at a portrait of Aunt Ophelia. The portrait threw them back. Lurch, the door. The towering butler groaned acknowledgement and shuffled toward the entrance. When he pulled open the massive door, he found an odd pair standing on the doorstep, an elderly man with a sweeping silver beard, half-moon spectacles, and flamboyant purple robes, accompanied by a severe-looking woman in emerald green. Good afternoon, Lurch moaned. Hello, said Dumbledore pleasantly. I am Professor Albus Dumbledore, headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and this is Professor Minerva McGonagall. We're here to see Harry Potter and his guardians. Lurch stared at them for a long moment, then stepped aside with a groan that might have been an invitation to enter. The two professors stepped into the foyer, McGonagall unable to hide her shock at the decor, mounted swords and axes, stuffed creatures of questionable origin, and was that an electric chair in the corner? Ah, visitors from the wizard school. Gomez Addams appeared suddenly, flipping down the grand staircase and landing in front of them with arms outstretched. We've been expecting you. Well, not today specifically, but eventually. Gomez Addams, at your service. He pumped Dumbledore's hand enthusiastically, then kissed McGonagall's before she could protest. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Addams, Dumbledore replied, recovering his composure quickly. We've come about Harry. Of course, of course. Harry. Morticia. We have wizard company. Gomez bellowed up the stairs. Come, make yourselves at home. Careful of the chair, it's still hooked up. He led them into a sitting room that looked like it had been decorated by someone with a passion for Victorian funeral parlors and medieval torture chambers. A disembodied hand scuttled across the coffee table, arranging cookies on a plate. Thank you, thing, Gomez nodded to the hand, which gave a thumbs up and retreated to a small box. McGonagall's eyes widened. Is that a thing's been with the family for generations, Gomez explained casually. Best butler a severed hand could be. Before McGonagall could respond to this extraordinary statement, Morticia glided into the room with Harry and Wednesday close behind. Welcome to our humble home, Morticia said in her velvet-smooth voice. I am Morticia Addams. I see you've met my husband. Harry stepped forward, eyeing the visitors with open curiosity. At nearly 11, he was tall for his age, with the same untidy black hair and bright green eyes he'd inherited from his birth parents. But there was something distinctly Addams in his bearing, a confident poise and slightly unsettling intensity in his gaze. You're from Hogwarts, Harry said. It wasn't a question. My birth mother told me you'd come. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Your birth mother? Lily's ghost visited last Halloween, Morticia explained, resting a pale hand on Harry's shoulder. Such a touching reunion. We invited her to stay permanently, but apparently, there are rules about that sort of thing. McGonagall looked faint. Lily Potter's ghost. Just for a few minutes, Harry shrugged. The veil was thin. Wednesday's been trying to recreate the conditions so I can meet my birth father too, but so far no luck. Wednesday, a solemn girl with black braids and a blank expression, nodded. The blood ritual worked partially, but we need fresher samples. McGonagall cast a horrified glance at Dumbledore, who maintained a serene expression despite the increasingly bizarre conversation. Mr. and Mrs. Addams, Dumbledore began diplomatically, I must admit we were surprised to discover that Harry had been adopted. There were arrangements made for his care after his parents' death. Fate had other plans, Morticia said simply. We were in Godric's Hollow that night. We found Harry after the attack, and it was clear to us that he belonged with our family. You just took him. McGonagall couldn't hide her disbelief. We filled out all the proper paperwork, Gomez assured her. Both Muggle and magical. Our cousin ITT works in Makusa's adoption department, expedited the whole process. Harry has been a wonderful addition to our family, Morticia added. He has the Addams spirit, even if not the blood. Though his talents with hexes and curses certainly rival any born Addams. Harry grinned at this praise, revealing braces that McGonagall noted with relief at least seemed like normal, non-magical orthodontia. Dumbledore studied Harry carefully. And how do you feel, Harry? Are you happy here? Of course, Harry replied without hesitation. I have the best family anyone could ask for. Mother teaches me about poisons and potions, father taught me fencing and demolition, and grandmama's been helping with my magic since I was little. You've been training his magic? Dumbledore asked sharply. Not in the way you're thinking, Morticia clarified. We've simply helped him control his natural outbursts and understand his gifts. Grandmama was once quite friendly with Newt Scamander, you know. I see, Dumbledore said, though he clearly didn't entirely. Well, the purpose of our visit is to formally invite Harry to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, as his parents did before him. He produced the envelope McGonagall had shown him earlier, offering it to Harry. Harry took it eagerly, breaking the wax seal and reading the contents with obvious excitement. This is fantastic! Harry exclaimed. Wednesday, look at the supply list, cauldrons, wands, spell books. Wednesday peered at the list. Disappointing lack of sacrificial daggers. Now, Wednesday, Morticia chided gently, different magical traditions have different requirements. I'm sure they'll cover ritual sacrifice in advanced classes. McGonagall made a strangled noise. We are delighted that Harry can attend his parents' alma mater, Morticia continued smoothly. Though we will miss him terribly. About that, Gomez interjected. We've been discussing this as a family, and we think it's only right that Wednesday attends with Harry. Wednesday? McGonagall repeated. But she's not on our list of magical children. Oh, she's magical in her own unique way, Gomez winked. Aren't you, Wednesday? Wednesday stared unblinkingly at McGonagall. I can make spiders do my bidding and once hexed a door-to-door salesman with boils for a month. The Addams line has its own form of magic, Morticia explained. Different from wand wielders, but compatible. Wednesday is the same age as Harry, and they're practically inseparable. Dumbledore considered this unexpected request. It is unusual, but not unprecedented for us to accept students from alternative magical backgrounds. I would need to evaluate Miss Addams's abilities, of course. Of course, Morticia agreed. Wednesday, why don't you show the professors your special talent? Without changing her deadpan expression, Wednesday held out her hand. A black flame appeared in her palm, dancing with eerie shadows that seemed to take half-formed shapes. I call them, she said simply. Calls what, dear? McGonagall asked, unable to tear her eyes away from the flame. The ones beyond the veil, Wednesday replied. They answer sometimes. A disembodied whisper emanated from the flame, speaking in a language none of them recognized before Wednesday closed her hand, extinguishing both flame and voice. Dumbledore cleared his throat. Yes, well. I believe we can make accommodations for Miss Addams to attend alongside Harry. Splendid. Gomez clapped his hands. 2 Addamses at Hogwarts. This calls for a celebration. Morticia, the good hemlock. There are some additional matters we should discuss, Dumbledore said carefully. About Harry's history, and the circumstances that led to his parents' deaths. The dark wizard who tried to kill me, Harry nodded. Voldemort. McGonagall flinched at the name, which did not go unnoticed by the observant Addamses. Interesting, Morticia murmured. The name itself carries power. A nasty business, Gomez shook his head. Killing parents is one thing, happens in the best families, but attempting to murder a baby? No style at all. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled despite himself. Indeed, Mr. Addams. No style at all. We've told Harry everything we know, Morticia said. That Voldemort killed his parents, tried to kill him, and somehow Harry survived, defeating the Dark Wizard in the process. And that I'm famous because of it, Harry added. Though I don't really understand why. It's not like I remember doing anything special. It is precisely that mystery which makes your survival so remarkable, Dumbledore explained. No one has ever survived the killing curse before. You are unique in wizarding history, Harry. Unique is good, Gomez nodded approvingly. An Addams family value. There is more you should know, Dumbledore continued. Lord Voldemort had many followers, some of whom remain at large. And there are those who believe he is not truly dead. Rather than looking frightened, the entire Addams family lit up with interest. A potential resurrection. Morticia placed a hand over her heart. How thrilling. That's not exactly the reaction most would have, McGonagall muttered. We Addamses have a different perspective on death, Morticia explained serenely. It's merely another stage of existence, often not even a permanent one. What Mother means, Harry clarified, seeing the professor's confusion, is that we're not afraid of Voldemort returning. If he does, I'll face him. That's what Addamses do. We gladly feast on those who would subdue us, Wednesday recited solemnly. Family motto, Gomez explained with pride. Been preparing the children for mortal combat since they could hold a dagger. Dumbledore and McGonagall exchanged concerned glances. While your confidence is admirable, Harry, Dumbledore said gently, Lord Voldemort is a formidable enemy. If he returns, you will need protection, training, guidance. That's what family is for, Harry replied simply. And now I'll have Hogwarts too. Morticia's eyes gleamed with something unreadable. Professor Dumbledore, I sense you had specific plans for Harry's upbringing that did not come to fruition. Perhaps you envisioned him growing up differently, more normal. I had hoped to protect him, Dumbledore admitted. From his fame, from those who might wish him harm. And yet here he stands, Morticia gestured to Harry. confident, healthy, and loved. Perhaps fate knew better than any of us what Harry needed. Dumbledore studied the strange family before him, the darkly elegant mother, the wildly enthusiastic father, the unervingly stoic daughter, and Harry himself, who despite his unusual upbringing, radiated the same innate goodness Dumbledore had sensed in James and Lily Potter. Perhaps it did, Mrs. Addams, he conceded with a small bow. Perhaps it did. Diagon Alley had never seen anything quite like the Addams family. Morticia glided through the crowded street like a graceful spectre, turning heads with her floor-length black dress and ghostly pallor. Gomez strutted beside her in his pinstriped suit, occasionally breaking into spontaneous fencing stances when something excited him, which was often. Wednesday walked between them, her face a mask of bored disdain that somehow intimidated even the most hardened shopkeepers. And Harry, looking more like a miniature Gomez in his own suit than the Wizarding World savior, took in everything with wide-eyed enthusiasm. "It's magnificent," Gomez declared, spinning in place to take in the magical shops. "Reminds me of that charming little necromancer's market in Transylvania." "Indeed," Morticia agreed, eyeing a display of shrunken heads with professional interest. Though their preservation technique could use improvement. Whispers followed them everywhere. "Is that Harry Potter? With those people? Look at his scar. Why is he dressed like that? What's wrong with that girl? She hasn't blinked once." Harry, who had grown up in a household where stares and whispers from normal people were standard, barely noticed the attention. He was too busy drinking in the sights of the magical world his birth parents had belonged to. "First stop, Gringotts," Gomez announced, consulting the map Dumbledore had provided. "Banking with goblins. Now there's a civilization with proper values." The goblin guards at Gringotts' entrance straightened as the Addamses approached, sensing something unusual about the family. Inside, the head goblin peered down at them from his high desk with obvious suspicion. "We're here about the Potter Vault," Gomez announced cheerfully. "And to establish proper relations between the ancient and most bizarre House of Addams and the Goblin Nation." The goblin's eyes narrowed. "The Potter Vault requires a key." "Professor Dumbledore provided it," Morticia said, producing a small golden key from her sleeve. "Along with a letter explaining our unique family situation." The goblin examined both items carefully, then looked at Harry. "And this is Mr. Potter?" "Potter Addams," Harry corrected politely. "But you can call me Harry." The goblin seemed to evaluate Harry for a moment before nodding. "Very well. Griphook will take you to your vault." He hesitated, then added, "And, the Goblin Nation acknowledges the House of Addams. Your reputation precedes you." "Wonderful." Gomez beamed. "Cousin Itt spoke highly of your investment strategies. Perhaps after the children's shopping, we could discuss some mutually beneficial arrangements." The goblin's demeanor changed subtly. "That would be acceptable." The cart ride to Harry's vault was met with delight by the entire family, with Gomez whooping like a madman at every drop and turn, Wednesday requesting it go faster, and Morticia maintaining perfect poise despite the breakneck speed. When they reached the vault and Griphook opened it, Harry gasped at the mountains of gold, silver, and bronze coins inside. "My birth parents left me all this?" he asked, stunned. "The Potter family was quite wealthy," Griphook confirmed. "This is merely your trust vault. The main family vault will become accessible when you come of age. You see, Harry." Morticia placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your birth parents made sure you would be provided for. Take what you need for school supplies," Gomez advised. "Though of course, your mother and I are perfectly happy to cover all expenses." "We should take some of each," Harry decided, pulling out the moleskin pouch Grandmama Addams had given him for the trip. "I want to understand how wizard money works." As Griphook explained the conversion of galleons, sickles, and nuts, Wednesday wandered deeper into the vault, examining various items stored beyond the coins. "Harry," she called in her monotone voice. "There are some interesting artifacts here." Harry joined his sister, finding her examining a collection of jewelry, books, and magical items. "Things your parents left that aren't just money," Wednesday observed. "You should take something personal." Harry carefully looked through the items, eventually selecting a small, leather-bound journal with J.P. embossed on the cover. "My father's diary," he murmured, tucking it into his jacket pocket. "Perfect." After filling his pouch with a generous amount of coins, the Addamses returned to the surface, where Gomez indeed stayed behind to discuss business opportunities with the goblins. "Morticia, darling, you know how I love a good financial scheme," while Morticia took the children shopping. Their first major stop was Ollivander's wand shop. The dusty, narrow store fell eerily silent as they entered, the thousands of boxed wands seeming to vibrate with anticipation. "Good afternoon," came a soft voice, and Mr. Ollivander stepped out from between the shelves, his silvery eyes gleaming in the dim light. He paused when he saw the unusual trio. "Ah. I've been expecting you, Mr. Potter, but I see you come with interesting companions." Potter Addams, Harry and Wednesday corrected simultaneously. "And we need 2 wands," Morticia added smoothly. "Both Harry and Wednesday will be attending Hogwarts this year." Ollivander's eyebrows rose. "An Addams at Hogwarts? Curious. Very curious. I haven't paired an Addams with a wand in, well, it must be 3 centuries now. Our family tends to practice wandless magic," Morticia explained. But Dumbledore agreed that both children would benefit from formal wand training. "Did he indeed?" Ollivander murmured, studying Wednesday with fascination. "Well then, ladies first, perhaps." Wednesday stepped forward, her dark eyes unblinking. Ollivander began taking measurements, muttering to himself as he pulled boxes from the shelves. "Try this," he offered a sleek black wand. "Ebony and dragon heartstring, 12 inches, rigid. Good for curses." Wednesday took the wand, and before she even moved her wrist, the wand emitted a shower of dark purple sparks that formed briefly into tiny skull shapes before dissipating. Ollivander nearly dropped his measuring tape. "Well. It seems the wand has chosen rather decisively. Ebony wands have a proud reputation, matched only by the pride of their owners. They're perfectly suited to those with the courage to be themselves, especially when that self is unconventional." A ghost of a smile touched Wednesday's lips as she examined her new wand. "It feels like an extension of my will." "That's precisely what a good wand match should feel like, Miss Addams," Ollivander said, before turning to Harry. "Now, Mr. Potter Addams. Let's find your match." What followed was a much longer process. Wand after wand was tried and rejected, sometimes with disastrous results. Shelves collapsed, windows cracked, and at one point, all the dust in the shop formed into a miniature tornado. "Tricky customer," Ollivander said, but he seemed delighted rather than frustrated. "Not to worry. The wand chooses the wizard, and somewhere here is the perfect match for you." He disappeared into the back of his shop, returning with a single dusty box. "I wonder, try this one. Holly and Phoenix Feather, 11 inches, nice and supple." The moment Harry's fingers closed around the wand, he felt a sudden warmth. He raised it above his head and brought it swishing down, producing a stream of red and gold sparks that illuminated the shop with dancing light. "Curious," Ollivander whispered, watching Harry with an intensity that even Wednesday found impressive. "Very curious indeed." "What's curious?" Harry asked, reluctant to put down the wand that felt so right in his hand. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter Addams. Every single wand. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather resides in your wand gave another feather, just one other. It is curious that you should be destined for this wand when its brother gave you that scar." Harry touched his forehead instinctively. "Voldemort had the brother wand?" "We do not speak his name," Ollivander whispered. "But yes. The wand chooses the wizard, remember. I think we can expect great things from you, Mr. Potter Addams. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great." Far from being disturbed by this revelation, Harry looked thrilled. A connection to the dark wizard who tried to kill me? Father will be ecstatic. Morticia smiled proudly. It's like having a piece of your own personal nemesis. How intimate. Ollivander looked between them with an expression that suggested he was reconsidering several things about the universe. That will be 7 galleons each for the wands. After paying, they continued their shopping spree through Diagon Alley. At Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions, the seamstress had to be convinced that yes, Wednesday really did want her Hogwarts robes to be extra black, not standard black. Void black. In the bookstore, Morticia added several advanced texts on potions and hexes to the required first-year books, while Harry found himself drawn to books about recent wizarding history, particularly those mentioning the fall of Voldemort. At the apothecary, Morticia engaged the proprietor in a detailed discussion about the properties of various poisons, impressing him with her extensive knowledge. "My wife's a natural potioneer," Gomez explained proudly when he rejoined them, pockets bulging with what appeared to be goblin investment contracts. "Grows her own deadly nightshade, wolfsbane, and hemlock. Best poison garden in the state." The apothecary looked both horrified and impressed. Their final stop was Magical Menagerie, where they intended to purchase pets for the children. Wednesday immediately gravitated toward the spiders and scorpions, while Harry found himself drawn to the owls in the adjacent shop, Elop's Owl Emporium. "They're practical," Harry explained when Morticia raised an eyebrow at his conventional choice. "For sending letters home. Besides, they're naturally nocturnal and eat their prey whole." Very Addams. He eventually selected a beautiful snowy owl that, despite its pristine white coloration, had fixed Harry with the same intense, predatory stare he recognized from Wednesday when she was plotting something particularly macabre. "I'll call her Hecate," Harry decided, stroking the owl's feathers. "After the goddess of witchcraft." Wednesday, meanwhile, had convinced the reluctant shopkeeper to sell her a rare breed of tarantula that changed colors depending on its mood, currently a deep, ominous purple as it sat contentedly on her shoulder. "Enid," she said simply when asked what she'd named it. With their shopping complete, the Addams family made one final stop at Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor, where Morticia requested, "the darkest chocolate you have," and Wednesday asked if they had anything hemlock-flavored, causing several nearby families to hurriedly vacate their tables. As they sat enjoying their treats, conventional ice cream for Harry and Gomez, while Morticia and Wednesday had convinced Fortescue to create something special and dubiously edible, Harry finally had a moment to reflect on everything he'd learned. "Mother," he said suddenly, "what house do you think I'll be in at Hogwarts?" Morticia considered the question thoughtfully. "From what Dumbledore explained about the house system, I imagine Slytherin would appreciate your ambition and cunning, while Gryffindor would value your willingness to charge headlong into danger. Ravenclaw might suit Wednesday," Gomez added, twirling his ice cream spoon like a baton. "She has that calculating intellect. Remember when she designed that perfect mousetrap at age 4? "It wasn't for mice," Wednesday corrected flatly. "Even better." Gomez beamed. "I think," Morticia said carefully, "that regardless of where you're sorted, you'll bring the Addams spirit to Hogwarts. That's far more important than which dormitory you sleep in." Harry nodded, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness about the journey ahead. "Do you think my birth parents would be proud? Them being Gryffindors and all?" Morticia placed her cold hand over Harry's. "Any parents would be proud of a child who faces life, and death, with courage and curiosity. You've grown into a remarkable young man, Harry. And if anyone gives you trouble," Gomez added cheerfully, "remember your fencing lessons. Aim for the jugular." Harry grinned, feeling the weight of the wand in his pocket, the brother to Voldemort's own. Whatever lay ahead at Hogwarts, he would face it as both a Potter and an Addams. And if Voldemort truly wasn't gone for good, as Dumbledore suggested. Well, the Addams family had been hosting resurrections at their annual Halloween parties for generations. Harry rather thought it might be interesting to meet the dark wizard who had failed to kill him, and perhaps show him that death was just the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Platform 9 and 3/4 bustled with activity as families bid farewell to students boarding the Hogwarts Express. Amid the chaos of trunks, owls, and tearful goodbyes, the Addams family created a bubble of stillness that caused other travelers to give them a wide berth. Morticia adjusted Harry's tie one last time, her pale fingers lingering on the pin he wore, a small silver, for Addams, enchanted by Grandmama to protect against minor hexes. "Remember, darling, write to us immediately if anyone tries to kill you," she instructed. "We'd want to send flowers. And if you need any cursed objects from the family vault, just say the word." Gomez added enthusiastically. "I can have Thing deliver them overnight." Pugsley, now 9 and looking disgruntled about being left behind, kicked at Harry's trunk. "Bring me back something that explodes." "I promise," Harry assured his younger brother. "And I'll teach you all the best hexes when I come home for Christmas." Wednesday stood silently beside her luggage, her tarantula Enid perched on her shoulder and her expression as impassive as ever. Several passing students had already crossed to the other side of the platform to avoid her unblinking stare. "Wednesday, dear," Morticia turned to her daughter, "remember what we discussed about making friends. Give them a chance before deciding they're worthy of elimination," Wednesday recited tonelessly. "That's my girl." Morticia kissed her forehead. A red-haired family bustled past, the mother herding 4 boys toward the train. The youngest, who looked about Harry's age, glanced curiously at the Addams family before his mother hurried him along. "You should board soon," Morticia noted as the train whistle blew. "Your father and I have one last gift for each of you." Gomez produced 2 small packages wrapped in black paper with silver ribbon. "Special communication devices. Enchanted by your grandmama herself." Harry and Wednesday unwrapped their gifts to find matching hand mirrors in ornate silver frames adorned with tiny skulls. "They're two-way mirrors," Morticia explained. "Say the name of the person you wish to speak with, and if they have their mirror, you'll be connected. We have matching ones at home. For emergencies," Gomez added with a wink, "or to share particularly gruesome discoveries." "Thank you," Harry said sincerely, tucking the mirror carefully into his carry-on bag. "This means a lot." "Now go," Morticia urged gently. "Adventure awaits." Harry hugged his parents tightly, still marveling at how fortunate he'd been that this strange, loving family had found him that Halloween night. Whatever lay ahead at Hogwarts, he carried the Addams strength with him. He and Wednesday boarded the train, finding an empty compartment near the back. As the train began to pull away, they leaned out the window to wave goodbye to their family. Gomez was performing handstands of excitement while Morticia waved elegantly, Pugsley tried unsuccessfully to run alongside the train, and Lurch stood stoically in the background, holding up a sign that read, "Make US Proud," in Gothic lettering. As Platform 9 and 3/4 disappeared from view, Harry settled back into his seat, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We're finally going to Hogwarts." Wednesday nodded, stroking Enid absently. "I've packed extra embalming fluid, just in case." "Always prepared," Harry grinned. "That's why you're the best sister." A hesitant knock on their compartment door interrupted them. It slid open to reveal the red-haired boy they'd seen on the platform. "Sorry," he said awkwardly, "but everywhere else is full. Do you mind if I join you?" Harry and Wednesday exchanged a glance. Their first potential friend, or victim. "Come in," Harry invited with a genuine smile. "I'm Harry. Harry Potter Addams. And this is my sister, Wednesday Addams." The boy's eyes widened comically. "You're Harry Potter? The Harry Potter? Blimey. I'm Ron Weasley." As Ron settled into the seat opposite them, carefully keeping his distance from Wednesday and her spider, Harry felt the Hogwarts Express picking up speed, carrying them all toward a year that promised to be anything but ordinary. "Is it true you have the, you know?" Ron pointed hesitantly at Harry's forehead. Harry pushed back his hair to reveal the lightning scar. "This?" "Yes. Souvenir from a killing curse." "Wicked," Ron breathed. "Yes," Wednesday agreed with the faintest hint of a smile. We think so too. And as the countryside began to flash past the windows, Harry knew that Hogwarts would never be quite the same once the Addamses arrived. Chapter 2, Lessons in Normality. The Great Hall fell silent as Professor McGonagall placed the ancient sorting hat on Wednesday Addams' head. The hat, which had been singing cheerfully moments before, seemed to freeze mid-wrinkle. A full minute passed. Then another. Students exchanged nervous glances. McGonagall cleared her throat. Finally, the hat twitched and seemed to shudder. Slytherin, it announced, sounding slightly traumatized. Wednesday slid off the stool, her expression unchanged, and glided toward the Slytherin table. The students shuffled to make space, creating a perfect circle of empty seats around her when she sat down. Potter, Harry. McGonagall called next, and whispers erupted throughout the hall. Did she say Potter? The Harry Potter? Why is he dressed like a tiny undertaker? Harry stepped forward confidently, sitting on the stool as McGonagall placed the hat on his head. Said a small voice in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind, either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a nice thirst to prove yourself. But what's this? Raised by the Addams family? I just sorted one of them and I'm still recovering. Is that a problem? Harry thought, amused. Problem? No. Fascinating, actually. You have qualities for all houses, Slytherin cunning from your upbringing, Ravenclaw intellect, Hufflepuff loyalty to your adopted family, and Gryffindor courage in your blood. My sister's in Slytherin, Harry thought. But my birth parents were Gryffindors. Yes. You're a complicated one, aren't you? You do well in Slytherin, with your sister. That darkness the Addamses cultivated in you would flourish there. But there's something else, something very bright at your core. Better be Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table erupted in cheers, though Harry noted a flash of disappointment cross Wednesday's face before her usual blank expression returned. Harry made his way to the Gryffindor table, where Ron, already sorted, had saved him a seat. The Weasley twins were chanting, "We got Potter. We got Potter," while an older boy with a prefect badge tried to shake Harry's hand formally. Welcome to Gryffindor, Potter. Percy Weasley, prefect. If you need any, Potter Addams, Harry corrected automatically. And thanks. Percy blinked, then nodded stiffly. Of course. Potter Addams. As the sorting continued, Harry caught Wednesday's eye across the hall and gave her a small nod. She returned it almost imperceptibly. They'd discussed this possibility on the train, being sorted into different houses. It wouldn't change anything important between them. The feast appeared magically on the tables, and while other first-years gasped in delight, Harry merely nodded appreciatively. Grandmama Addams did similar tricks at home, though her food usually moved on its own and occasionally tried to escape. Is it true you were raised by, a sandy-haired boy named Seamus Finnegan asked between mouthfuls. My mum says the Addams family practices dark magic. Harry speared a piece of roast beef with practiced precision. We prefer to think of it as misunderstood magic. What's dark to some is just Tuesday dinner to others. What's that supposed to mean? Asked a nearby girl with bushy hair, leaning forward with interest. It means perspective matters, Harry replied, smiling in a way that made several first-years lean back. Take this knife, for example. He held up his dinner knife. You see, a utensil for cutting food. My father taught me 17 ways to use it in a duel. My mother showed me how to extract 7 different poisons that can be applied to the blade. And Uncle Fester demonstrated how it conducts electricity when stuck in your ear. The students around him stared, forks frozen halfway to their mouths. But right now, Harry continued cheerfully, using the knife to cut his potato, I'm just having dinner. Ron snorted with laughter while the bushy-haired girl looked both alarmed and intrigued. I'm Hermione Granger, she introduced herself. And you're really Harry Potter? I've read all about you in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts. Those books got most of it wrong, Harry said. They say I was sent to live with Muggle relatives. Actually, I was adopted by the Addamses after they found me in the ruins of my parents' house. You were at the house that night? Hermione gasped. But how? Family vacation, Harry shrugged. The Addamses always travel somewhere special for Samhain. That year it was Godric's Hollow. Lucky coincidence, really. Otherwise, I might have ended up normal. He shuddered at the thought. At the high table, Dumbledore rose to give announcements. Harry half listened as the headmaster welcomed everyone, warned against entering the Forbidden Forest, which sounded to Harry like an invitation, and declared the third-floor corridor off-limits to anyone who didn't wish to die a most painful death. He's not serious, is he? Hermione whispered. I hope so, Harry replied, suddenly more interested in Hogwarts. Father would be disappointed if there wasn't at least one opportunity for mortal peril. As the feast ended and Percy led the Gryffindor first-years toward their dormitory, Harry caught up with Wednesday, who was following her house toward the dungeons. Different houses, he said simply. Different hunting grounds, she replied, her dark eyes gleaming slightly. They won't expect us to work together. Harry grinned. Just like that time at summer camp. Those counselors never recovered. Wednesday almost smiled. Meet tomorrow before breakfast. Entrance hall, 7 a.m., Harry nodded. Sleep well. Dream of darkness. Always. Wednesday turned to follow her housemates, leaving several Slytherin first-years looking nervously between her and Harry. A blond boy pushed forward, eyeing Harry with calculation. So you're Potter? I'm Malfoy. Draco Malfoy. You should know that some wizarding families are better than others. I can help you there. He extended his hand, but Harry was distracted by a pale, hook-nosed professor who had appeared behind Draco, watching the exchange with narrowed eyes. Hello, Professor, Harry said politely, ignoring Draco's hand. I'm Harry Potter Addams. You seem like someone who appreciates the subtle arts. My mother would like you. The professor's eyebrows rose fractionally. Potter. Addams. Severus Snape, our head of house, Draco supplied, looking annoyed at being ignored. Professor Snape, Harry nodded. Do you know much about poisons? Mother grows the most exquisite deadly nightshade. She's been teaching me the basics of toxicology since I was 5. Something unreadable flickered across Snape's face. First-years should return to their dormitories. Miss Addams, I expect punctuality from my Slytherins. Wednesday materialized at his elbow, causing several students to jump. I'm never late, Professor. Not even for my own funeral. A ghost of what might have been amusement touched Snape's lips before he swept away, his robes billowing dramatically. Nice effect with the robes, Harry commented. Grandmother could give him tips on making them appear to bleed at the edges. The Slytherins and Gryffindors parted ways, each group casting curious glances back at the strange siblings who clearly didn't fit the traditional house rivalry narrative. The first week of classes provided ample opportunity for the Addams siblings to demonstrate just how different their magical education had been before Hogwarts. In Transfiguration, Professor McGonagall had barely finished explaining the match-to-needle exercise when Wednesday raised her hand. Yes, Miss Addams. Is there a practical reason we're turning matches into needles rather than, say, something more useful like poison darts? McGonagall's lips thinned. Transfiguration begins with similar objects. The principles you learn will eventually allow for more diverse applications. I see, Wednesday said flatly. So next week we could transform buttons into eyes. Several Slytherins scooted their chairs away from her. Meanwhile, Harry had already transformed his match not into a needle, but into a tiny silver dagger. Mr. Potter Addams, McGonagall sighed, while your transfiguration shows remarkable skill, the assignment was specifically a needle. Sorry, Professor, Harry said, not looking sorry at all. Force of habit. Father always says, why make a point when you can make a blade? McGonagall pinched the bridge of her nose. Please transform it into a needle. Harry complied, earning 5 points for Gryffindor for being the first to successfully complete the transformation, even if it had gone through an unauthorized intermediate stage. In herbology, Professor Sprout was simultaneously impressed and concerned by Harry and Wednesday's extensive knowledge of poisonous plants. Devil's Snare is actually quite lovely when properly cultivated, Harry informed Neville Longbottom, who'd been partnered with him. Mother keeps some in our conservatory. Makes an excellent security system around the quicksand pit. Cue quicksand pit? Neville stammered. For unwelcome visitors, Harry explained cheerfully. Though sometimes Pugsley, that's my brother, and I used to play quicksand escape when we were bored. The record is 3 minutes before total submersion. Neville looked faint. Across the greenhouse, Wednesday was methodically pruning her Flitterbloom with such precision that Professor Sprout came over to watch. My, you have quite the green thumb, Miss Addams. Thank you, Wednesday replied. I've been maintaining Mother's poison garden since I was 4. The wolfsbane responded particularly well to being watered with diluted venom. Professor Sprout's smile froze. How innovative. Charms class brought its own memorable moments when Professor Flitwick, after calling Harry's name during roll and squeaking excitedly, asked the class to practice the Lumos charm. Remember, it's a gentle swish and clearly pronounce L-O-O-Mos, the tiny professor instructed. Harry performed the charm perfectly on his first try, but instead of the warm golden glow most wands produced, his emitted an eerie blue-white light that cast sharp, twisted shadows across the room. Interesting effect, Mr. Potter Addams, Flitwick commented, adjusting his glasses. I've never seen quite that coloration before. It matches the eternal flame in our family crypt, Harry said with satisfaction. I was hoping it would. Defense against the dark arts proved particularly disappointing to both Addams' siblings. Professor Quirrell, with his stuttering and nervous disposition, seemed terrified of his own subject. Today we'll be discussing basic P-protective theory, Quirrell stammered. Harry raised his hand. Professor, when will we learn about the unforgivable curses? The class went dead silent. Quirrell's turban seemed to twitch of its own accord. That's not a first-year material, Mr. Potter, Quirrell replied, his stutter worsening. The very advanced dark magic. Oh. Harry looked crestfallen. It's just that Uncle Fester has this theory about redirecting the Cruciatus curse through copper wire to power small appliances, and I wanted to test it. Ron snorted with laughter while Hermione looked scandalized. Quirrell merely stared at Harry as though unsure whether he was joking. The professor seemed equally unnerved when Wednesday, in her separate class with the Slytherins, asked detailed questions about necromancy and whether it was classified as dark magic or merely frowned upon. It was potions, however, that proved most interesting. The Gryffindors and Slytherins had this class together, allowing the Addams siblings to work as partners despite their different houses, an arrangement Professor Snape initially tried to prevent until Wednesday fixed him with such an intense stare that he reluctantly acquiesced. You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making, Snape began in barely more than a whisper. I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind, and snaring the senses. Harry and Wednesday exchanged approving glances. This was language they understood. Potter. Snape suddenly barked. What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Hermione's hand shot into the air, but Harry smiled, recognizing ingredients from Morticia's garden. The draught of living death, sir, he answered promptly. Mother uses a variant with a dash of nightshade to create a lovely state of suspended animation. Last Halloween, we buried cousin ITT after he drank some. The resurrection ceremony was spectacular. Snape blinked, momentarily thrown off his rhythm. Correct. Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar? The stomach of a goat, Harry replied. Though the petrified gallstones of a basilisk work better if you're counteracting exotic poisons. We have both in our family's emergency kit. Snape's eyes narrowed. What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? They're the same plant, also called aconite, Harry said. Wednesday cultivates a particularly potent strain. The flowers are lovely in a corpse bride bouquet. A strangled noise that might have been a suppressed laugh escaped Snape's throat. Correct, Mr. Potter. Addams. It seems you inherited your mother's talent for potions. Harry tilted his head. You knew my birth mother. Something flashed in Snape's dark eyes. We attended Hogwarts together. 5 points to Gryffindor for being adequately prepared. The class proceeded with brewing a simple potion to cure boils. Harry and Wednesday worked with an efficiency that spoke of long practice. While other students struggled with measurements and techniques, the siblings moved in perfect synchronization, their potion turning exactly the right shade at each stage. Mother would add a drop of belladonna here, Wednesday murmured as they reached the final step. For aesthetic effect. Professor Snape might not appreciate the modification, Harry replied, though he looked tempted. Snape, who had been prowling the classroom criticizing everyone's work, paused behind them, listening. Belladonna would interact with the porcupine quills, he said quietly, turning the potion a more vibrant shade of purple while increasing potency by approximately 20%. Wednesday met his gaze. And adding 3 drops of nightshade essence would make it absorb through the skin on contact, eliminating the need for ingestion. A flicker of genuine interest crossed Snape's face. 5 points to Slytherin for understanding potion enhancement principles, Miss Addams. When they turned in their perfect potion at the end of class, Harry noticed Snape studying them with calculation, as though re-evaluating everything he thought he knew about the son of James Potter. By the second week, Harry and Wednesday had established a reputation that left them simultaneously feared, admired, and wildly misunderstood by their classmates. The Weasley twins declared Harry their honorary apprentice in chaos, after he casually mentioned some of Pugsley's favorite explosive mixtures. The Slytherins maintained a respectful distance from Wednesday, especially after she demonstrated her ability to summon spiders during a common room argument with an older student. Ron remained Harry's closest friend, his initial wariness of the Addamses giving way to a kind of fascinated acceptance. Hermione Granger, despite her strict adherence to rules, found herself gradually drawn into their orbit, first through study sessions in the library where Wednesday's encyclopedic knowledge of obscure magical theory matched her own, then through a grudging appreciation for their unique perspective on magic. It's just not logical, Hermione complained one afternoon as they practiced the levitation charm. The books say you need to precisely pronounce Wingardium Leviosa with the correct swish and flick, but Wednesday can make objects float by just staring at them intensely. Different kinds of magic, Harry explained, successfully levitating his feather. Traditional Addams magic doesn't always need wands or incantations. It's more about intent and will. It's not in any of the textbooks, Hermione said, looking genuinely distressed by this gap in recorded knowledge. Not everything worth knowing is in books, Wednesday commented, her feather hovering perfectly despite her wand lying untouched on the desk. Some knowledge is passed through blood and bone. That sounds rather dark, Hermione frowned. Dark is relative, Harry shrugged. Is it dark when the moon eclipses the sun? When night follows day? The Addamses simply embrace the shadows others fear. Speaking of fear, Ron interrupted, struggling with his own feather, is it true you made Malfoy scream yesterday, Wednesday? A ghost of a smile touched Wednesday's lips. He called me that creepy Addams girl, in the common room. I showed him my pet tarantula, Enid. Then I showed him where I keep the rest of them. The rest? Hermione asked hesitantly. In my hair, Wednesday stated matter-of-factly. They come when called. Ron turned slightly green. Remind me never to make you angry. Noted, Wednesday replied. Though it's already too late for such promises. The notice for flying lessons appeared in the common rooms the following week, announcing that Gryffindors and Slytherins would be learning together. Excellent. Harry said to Ron. I've been looking forward to flying. You've never flown before? Ron asked, surprised. Not on a broom, Harry admitted. Though Uncle Fester once strapped rockets to a wheelchair and launched me off the roof. Mother was furious, said we didn't use proper safety precautions. What would proper safety precautions be for rocket-powered wheelchair launching? Hermione asked faintly. Harry considered this seriously. Fireproof underwear, at minimum. When the day of their first flying lesson arrived, Harry met Wednesday outside the Slytherin common room entrance to walk to the grounds together. Excited, he asked his sister. Cautiously optimistic, she replied. If the brooms work as described, I could gain a tactical advantage for my midnight operations. Harry nodded appreciatively. Rooftop access would open up new possibilities. Madame Hooch, the yellow-eyed flying instructor, had them line up beside the school brooms laid out on the ground. Stick your right hand over your broom and say, "Up," she instructed. "Up," everyone shouted. Harry's broom jumped into his hand at once. Wednesday's rolled over reluctantly, then slowly rose, hovering just below her palm as though afraid to make contact. Hermione's merely rolled over, while Neville's didn't move at all. Perhaps they sense fear, Wednesday suggested to Neville. Brooms, like horses and venomous snakes, can smell weakness. Neville gulped. Once everyone had their brooms in hand, Madame Hooch showed them how to mount without sliding off the end. Harry was pleased when she told Malfoy he'd been doing it wrong for years. Now, when I blow my whistle, you kick off from the ground, hard, said Madame Hooch. Keep your broom steady, rise a few feet, and then come straight back down by leaning forward slightly. But before she could blow her whistle, Neville, nervous and jumpy, pushed off too soon. His broom rose rapidly, straight up like a spooked horse. Come back, boy. Madame Hooch shouted, but Neville was rising like a cork, 12 feet, 20 feet. Harry saw his scared white face look down at the ground falling away, saw him gasp, slip sideways off the broom and, arresto momentum, Wednesday whispered, her eyes fixed on Neville with intense concentration. Neville's fall slowed visibly in the last few feet, allowing him to land with a thud and a nasty crack that was clearly his wrist breaking, but preventing what would have been a much worse impact. Broken wrist, Madame Hooch muttered, kneeling beside Neville. You're lucky it wasn't worse, boy. She turned to Wednesday with narrowed eyes. Was that wandless magic, Miss Addams? Wednesday blinked innocently. I don't know what you mean, Madame Hooch. Perhaps the castle protected him. Grandmother says Hogwarts has a mind of its own. Madame Hooch looked skeptical but returned her attention to Neville. Come on, up you get. Hospital wing for you. As she led Neville away, threatening the rest of the class with expulsion if they so much as floated an inch off the ground in her absence, Malfoy burst into laughter. Did you see his face, the great lump? The other Slytherins joined in, except Wednesday, who was watching Malfoy with clinical detachment. Shut up, Malfoy, snapped Parvati Patil. Ooh, sticking up for Longbottom, said Pansy Parkinson. Never thought you'd like fat little crybabies, Parvati. Look. Malfoy darted forward and snatched something from the grass. It's that stupid thing Longbottom's grandmother sent him. The remembrall glittered in the sun as Malfoy held it up. Give that here, Malfoy, said Harry quietly. Everyone stopped talking to watch. Malfoy smiled nastily. I think I'll leave it somewhere for Longbottom to find, how about up a tree? Draco, Wednesday's calm voice made everyone turn. In the Slytherin common room, you said you were the best flyer in our year. Prove it. Race Harry for the remembrall. Malfoy faltered, thrown off by Wednesday addressing him directly, something she rarely did. I don't take orders from you, Addams. It's not an order, Wednesday replied. It's a challenge. Unless you're afraid. Harry stepped forward, eyes gleaming. Yes, Malfoy. Race me. Winner gets the Remembrall and the right to decide what happens to it. The Gryffindors murmured approval while the Slytherins looked between Malfoy and Wednesday, unsure which side to take when Slytherin loyalty conflicted with fear of the Addams girl. Malfoy's pale cheeks flushed. Fine, Potter. You're on. Before anyone could stop them, both boys had mounted their brooms and kicked off hard. Harry felt a rush of fierce joy as the wind whipped through his hair and his robes billowed out behind him. This was easy, this was wonderful. He pulled his broomstick up a little higher, hearing screams and gasps from the girls back on the ground and an admiring whoop from Ron. He turned his broomstick sharply to face Malfoy in midair. The blonde boy looked stunned. Scared, Potter? Malfoy called, trying to sound confident despite the wobble in his voice. Harry grinned, a wild Addams grin that made Malfoy flinch. Exhilarated. What are the terms of our race? First to catch the Remembrall if you throw it. Malfoy nodded, regaining some composure. 3, 2, 1. He threw the glass ball as hard as he could toward the castle. Harry immediately flattened himself to the broom handle and shot toward it like a javelin. The wind whistled in his ears, mingling with screams from the watching students as he stretched out his hand. A foot from the ground he caught it, just in time to pull his broom straight, and toppled gently onto the grass with the Remembrall clutched safely in his fist. Harry Potter Addams. His heart sank. Professor McGonagall was running toward them. Never, in all my time at Hogwarts, Professor McGonagall was almost speechless with shock. How dare you, might have broken your neck, it wasn't his fault, Professor, Wednesday interrupted, appearing at McGonagall's elbow with uncanny silence. It was a controlled experiment in aerodynamics and object retrieval. Harry demonstrated exceptional aptitude. Be quiet, Miss Addams, McGonagall snapped. It was Malfoy's fault, Ron added. That's enough, Mr. Weasley. Potter, follow me, now. Harry caught Wednesday's eye as he followed McGonagall. His sister gave him the briefest nod, and he knew she was already formulating a contingency plan, probably involving blackmail or some arcane Addams family legal precedent. To Harry's surprise, however, McGonagall didn't take him to her office or Dumbledore's. Instead, she stopped outside a classroom, asked Professor Flitwick if she could borrow Wood for a moment, and introduced Harry to Oliver Wood, the Gryffindor Quidditch captain. Potter, this is Oliver Wood. Wood, I've found you a seeker. McGonagall's face was stern but her eyes sparkled. That was the most reckless, irresponsible flying I've ever seen, and the most natural. Your father would have been proud. He was an excellent Quidditch player himself. Seeker. Harry repeated, momentarily stunned. But first years never get their own brooms. True. But exceptions can be made. With your guardian's permission, of course. McGonagall's expression suggested she wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea of consulting the Addamses but knew it was necessary. Harry grinned. Father will be thrilled. He loves anything with high injury statistics. McGonagall pinched the bridge of her nose. Just, try not to mention that part in your letter home. When Harry returned to the common room that evening, he found Wednesday waiting for him, perched like a small Gothic statue on a chair near the entrance. How did you get in here? Harry asked, unsurprised. The fat lady appreciates good poetry, Wednesday replied. Particularly the works of Edgar Allan Poe. Harry nodded, accepting this. McGonagall made me seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Apparently my near-death experience demonstrated natural talent. Logical, Wednesday agreed. The Addams approach to learning has always been risk-based. Pugsley didn't truly master swimming until Father threw him into the piranha tank. I should write home tonight, Harry mused. Father will want to modify a broom for maximum velocity, regardless of safety considerations. Mother already knows, Wednesday informed him. I used the mirror immediately after your departure with McGonagall. She's delighted. Expect a package tomorrow with black and red Quidditch gear. Custom made. Spikes optional. Harry beamed at his sister. You think of everything. Someone must, she replied, standing to leave. The Slytherins believe you'll be expelled. Their disappointment tomorrow will be nourishing. The Addams family response to Harry's Quidditch appointment arrived with the morning mail 2 days later, a long, thin package carried by 6 screech owls, followed by Hecate delivering a letter. The package landed in front of Harry, causing nearby dishes to rattle. A bit early for mail, isn't it? Ron yawned, having just sat down. Harry ripped open the letter first. Our dearest, darkest Harry, congratulations on becoming Seeker. Your father is beside himself with pride, literally. There was an unfortunate incident with a medieval stretching rack he was repairing when we heard the news. Lurch is reattaching his limbs as I write this. We've taken the liberty of sending you a proper broom. The shop owner assured us it's the fastest model available, though Gomez insisted on certain modifications. The handle has been reinforced with bloodwood and the twigs treated with a special Addams family formula for improved velocity. Uncle Fester added a small surprise in the tail: do be careful when making sharp turns above 500 feet. Wednesday tells us you're flourishing at Hogwarts, striking terror into the hearts of your classmates while maintaining excellent grades. We couldn't be prouder. Pugsley misses his explosion partner, of course, but he's been keeping busy helping Grandmama test new potions on the neighbors' cats. Do give Wednesday our love, and remember, an Addams always plays to win, whether in chess, blood feuds, or sporting events. With macabre affection, Mother P.S. Your father insisted I add this postscript. The broom has 3 settings: fast, faster, and what Gomez calls the Widowmaker. Please use appropriate judgment, which is to say, make sure someone is recording if you use the 3rd setting. Harry handed the letter to Ron, who read it with widening eyes, then turned to the package. He tore off the wrapping paper, and both he and Ron gasped at the sleek black broomstick that rolled onto the table. Gold lettering near the top identified it as a Nimbus 2000, though Harry noted several unusual modifications, including what appeared to be tiny retractable blades along the handle, for close encounters with opposing players, he guessed. A Nimbus 2000. Ron moaned enviously. I've never even touched one. Harry ran his hand along the polished handle, detecting a faint whiff of gunpowder from the tail twigs. Uncle Fester's surprise, he murmured with a grin. As they admired the broom, Draco Malfoy walked past with Crabbe and Goyle, snatching the package from Harry's hands. That's a broomstick, he said, throwing it back with a mixture of jealousy and spite. You'll be in for it this time, Potter. First years aren't allowed them. Before Harry could respond, tiny Professor Flitwick appeared at Malfoy's elbow. Not arguing, I hope, boys, he squeaked. Potter's been sent a broomstick, Professor, Malfoy said quickly. Yes, that's right, said Professor Flitwick, beaming at Harry. Professor McGonagall told me all about the special circumstances, Potter. And what model is it? A Nimbus 2000, sir, said Harry, fighting not to laugh at Malfoy's obvious horror. With custom modifications, added Wednesday, who had appeared silently behind Malfoy, causing him to jump violently. Father added the retractable blades himself. Flitwick's smile faltered. Retractable, well, perhaps Madame Hooch should inspect those before your first practice, Potter. As Malfoy slunk away with his cronies, Harry finally noticed Hermione, who was eyeing the broom with strong disapproval. So I suppose you think that's a reward for breaking rules, she said severely. Actually, yes, Harry replied honestly. Life has generally rewarded me for breaking rules. Last summer, I broke into the neighbor's toolshed to borrow an axe for a project, and Father was so proud he bought me my own set of lockpicks. Hermione opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. That's not how things are supposed to work. Perhaps not, Wednesday agreed, joining them at the Gryffindor table despite the nervous looks from other students. But reality rarely conforms to expectations. The universe is chaos pretending to be order. Hermione looked between the siblings, clearly frustrated by their warped logic but unable to effectively counter it. "Just be careful with it," she finally said. "I've read that Quidditch injuries can be quite serious." "One can only hope," Harry replied cheerfully. That evening, Oliver Wood took Harry to the Quidditch pitch for his first training session. After explaining the basic rules and positions, Wood opened the crate containing the 4 Quidditch balls. "Right," said Wood, "Quidditch is easy enough to understand, even if it's not too easy to play. 7 players on each side. 3 chasers try to score with the quaffle through those hoops. The keeper, that's me, defends the hoops. The beaters keep the bludgers away from our team and hit them toward the other team." "Bludgers?" Harry asked, eyeing the struggling black balls straining against their straps. "These," Wood confirmed, releasing one. The black ball rose high in the air and then pelted straight at Harry's face. Harry, rather than ducking as Wood expected, grinned maniacally and swung his arm up to meet it. The bludger connected with his forearm with a nasty crunch, but to Wood's astonishment, Harry didn't cry out. Instead, he laughed as the ball bounced away. "Excellent!" Harry exclaimed. "It's like the cannonball game Pugsley and I play at home, only the ball moves on its own." Wood stared at Harry in disbelief, then noticed how the boy was cradling his arm. "Potter, I think your arm is broken." Harry glanced down as if just noticing. You might be right. Clean break, by the feel of it. Father says I have unusually brittle bones, a gift from grandmother's side of the family. We need to get you to the hospital wing." Wood looked panicked. "After we finish," Harry insisted. "I want to try catching the snitch first. Wednesday can reset the bone later if Madame Pomfrey is busy." "Reset the, your sister knows how to set broken bones?" Wood asked weakly. "Of course. She's been practicing medical procedures since she was 5. Her suturing is particularly neat, hardly any scarring unless she intends it." Wood looked increasingly disturbed but decided to continue the lesson, making a mental note to take Harry straight to Madame Pomfrey afterward regardless of his protests. "The last member of the team is the Seeker. That's you. And this," he pulled the tiny golden snitch from the crate, "is what you'll be chasing." Harry's eyes gleamed as the snitch's delicate wings unfurled and it hovered before him. "Beautiful," he murmured. "Like a mechanical hummingbird." "It's wicked fast and damn near impossible to see," Wood warned. "You've got to weave in and out of the chasers, beaters, bludgers, and quaffle to catch it before the other team's Seeker. The game only ends when the snitch is caught, which means it can go on for ages." "The longer the better," Harry said, eyes still fixed on the fluttering snitch. "More time for bones to break." Wood decided to ignore this disturbing comment. "Let's see how you handle the broom first, then we'll practice with some golf balls before risking the snitch." Harry mounted his Nimbus 2000, feeling the thrum of power beneath him. He noticed a small dial near the handle with 3 settings, just as his mother had mentioned. It was currently set to fast. Grinning wickedly, Harry twisted it 1 notch to faster. The broom leapt forward with such acceleration that Wood yelped in surprise. Harry wheeled and dived, chasing imaginary snitches with a precision that belied his broken arm and lack of experience. The wind whipped his hair back, and he felt truly alive, embracing the danger as only an Addams could. "Remarkable!" Wood shouted when Harry finally returned to Earth. "You're a natural. Better than Charlie Weasley, and he could have played for England." Harry beamed, the adrenaline making him momentarily forget the throbbing pain in his arm. "When's our first match?" "November, against Slytherin," Wood replied. "But first, hospital wing. Now." The weeks leading up to Halloween passed in a blur of classes, Quidditch practice, and the Addams siblings' increasingly notorious reputation. Harry excelled in practical magic, particularly in defense against the dark arts where, despite Quirrell's incompetence, he demonstrated an intuitive understanding of counter-curses that made the professor strangely nervous. Wednesday, meanwhile, had carved out a unique position in Slytherin House. Initially ostracized for her strangeness, she gradually earned a wary respect after hexing a sixth year who called her Muggle lover for associating with Harry's friends. No one could prove she'd done it, there was no wand movement, no incantation, but when the boy woke screaming every night for a week about spiders crawling under his skin, the Slytherins collectively decided that antagonizing Wednesday Addams wasn't worth the risk. Draco Malfoy remained one of the few who openly disparaged the Addams siblings, though he was careful to do so only when Wednesday was absent. His attempt to cultivate a friendship with Harry based on their shared, dark, backgrounds had failed miserably when Harry explained that the Addamses didn't care about blood purity. "What matters to my family," Harry had told him, "isn't whether magic comes from pure blood or not. It's whether you embrace the shadows inside you, the beautiful darkness that connects all living things through death. Also, Father says aristocrats are boring unless they've been driven mad by generations of inbreeding." Malfoy had walked away looking deeply offended, and their rivalry intensified. Harry found his closest friends in Ron and, surprisingly, Hermione. After a rocky start, Hermione's brilliance and growing willingness to bend rules made her a natural fit with Harry's unorthodox approach to magic. When she nervously showed them a bluebell flame she could conjure and carry in a jar, Harry and Wednesday spent an entire afternoon helping her modify it to change colors based on nearby emotional states, emotional thermometer, Wednesday called it. The three of them, along with Ron, formed an odd quartet that baffled professors and students alike. On Halloween morning, the castle awoke to the delicious smell of baking pumpkin wafting through the corridors. Even better for Harry was the arrival of another package from home, a large black box tied with silver ribbon that emitted concerning scratching sounds. "What's that?" Ron asked as Harry placed it carefully beside his plate at breakfast. "Halloween gift from the family," Harry explained, untying the ribbon. "It's our most sacred holiday." He lifted the lid, and several students nearby screamed as a disembodied hand leapt out and scuttled across the table. "Thing!" Harry exclaimed delightedly. "What are you doing here?" The hand made a series of gestures that Harry seemed to understand perfectly. "Father sent you to deliver a proper Halloween surprise?" Harry translated. "Brilliant." Thing disappeared back into the box and emerged with a smaller package, which it handed to Harry with a flourish. "Thanks, Thing," Harry said, unwrapping the gift to reveal what appeared to be a small human skull carved from black stone. "Is this what I think it is?" Thing gave a thumbs up. "A genuine communication crystal." Harry turned to his bewildered friends. "The Addams family has used these for centuries to commune with the dead on Samhain, Halloween. When the veil between worlds is thinnest." Hermione looked skeptical. "That sounds like incredibly advanced magic. Are you sure it's real?" "Of course it's real," Harry replied, offended. "The Addamses never fake supernatural artifacts. What would be the point?" Thing tapped Harry's arm and pointed toward the Slytherin table. Harry nodded. "Yes, go give Wednesday her gift. She'd never forgive me if I kept you to myself." The disembodied hand jumped down from the table and scurried across the great hall, causing a wave of shrieks and lifted feet as it made its way to Wednesday. The Slytherin girl's face showed a flicker of genuine pleasure as Thing climbed onto her shoulder in greeting. "Is that normal in wizard homes?" Dean Thomas asked faintly, watching the hand present Wednesday with her own small package. "Not in regular wizard homes," Ron replied. "Just Addams ones, apparently. Thing's been with our family for generations," Harry explained, pocketing his communication crystal. "He'll probably return home tonight after the feast. Unless he decides to explore the castle first." Several students looked alarmed at this possibility. Professor Flitwick, who was passing the Gryffindor table, paused to observe Thing's antics with academic interest. "Fascinating animation work," he commented. "Reminiscent of certain ancient Egyptian enchantments, though with remarkable independence." "Is it a family heirloom?" Mr. Potter Addams. Things not an hit, Professor, Harry corrected. He's a family member. No one knows exactly what happened to the rest of his body, though Great Aunt Crucible claims it's still wandering somewhere in the Amazon, looking for its missing appendage. Flitwick blinked rapidly. How colorful. Well, as long as your relative doesn't disrupt classes. Thing is very well behaved, Harry assured him. Though he does have a tendency to appear unexpectedly in sock drawers. The day's classes proceeded normally, though with an undercurrent of excitement about the Halloween feast that evening. In Charms, Professor Flitwick announced they were ready to start making objects fly, much to everyone's excitement. He paired the students off, Harry with Seamus Finnegan, Ron with Hermione, much to both their dismay. Now, don't forget that nice wrist movement we've been practicing, squeaked Professor Flitwick. Swish and flick, remember, swish and flick. And saying the magic words properly is very important, too. Harry mastered the charm quickly, having practiced similar levitation with Wednesday and Hermione in their study sessions. Ron, however, was having no success, growing increasingly frustrated as Hermione critiqued his pronunciation. You're saying it wrong, Harry heard her say. It's Wingardium Leviosa, make the gar nice and long. You do it, then, if you're so clever, Ron snarled. Hermione rolled up her sleeves, flicked her wand, and said, Wingardium Leviosa. Their feather rose off the desk and hovered about 4 feet above their heads. Oh, well done! Cried Professor Flitwick, clapping. Everyone see here, Miss Granger's done it. By the end of class, only Hermione, Harry, and a few others had successfully levitated their feathers. Ron was in a very bad mood. It's no wonder no one can stand her, he said to Harry as they pushed their way into the crowded corridor. She's a nightmare, honestly. Someone knocked into Harry as they hurried past. It was Hermione, and Harry was startled to see she was in tears. I think she heard you, Harry said quietly. So, said Ron, looking uncomfortable. She must have noticed she's got no friends. She has friends, Harry corrected. Wednesday and I are her friends. Ron looked skeptical. Wednesday? I thought she just tolerated Hermione because of you. Wednesday doesn't tolerate anyone, Harry said. If she didn't like Hermione, we'd know. Probably from the screaming. Ron winced. Fine, but you've got to admit, Hermione can be a bit much with all the hand-raising and know-it-all attitude. Different doesn't equal bad, Harry shrugged. That's the first rule in the Addams family. Besides, you should apologize to her at the feast. But Hermione didn't turn up for the feast. Harry overheard Parvati telling Lavender that Hermione was crying in the girls' bathroom and wanted to be left alone. This information made Ron look even more uncomfortable, but before Harry could press him further, they entered the Great Hall. The Halloween decorations were impressive, even by Addams standards. 1,000 live bats fluttered from the walls and ceiling while 1,000 more swooped over the tables in low black clouds, making the candles in the pumpkins stutter. The feast appeared suddenly on golden plates, as it had at the start of term banquet. Harry was just helping himself to a baked potato when Professor Quirrell came sprinting into the hall, his turban askew and terror on his face. Troll, in the dungeons, thought you ought to know. He then sank to the floor in a dead faint. The hall erupted in chaos. It took several purple firecrackers exploding from the end of Dumbledore's wand to bring silence. Prefects, he rumbled, lead your houses back to the dormitories immediately. As Percy Weasley bustled about importantly, organizing the Gryffindors, Harry grabbed Ron's arm. Hermione, he said urgently. She doesn't know about the troll. Ron bit his lip, looking torn between safety and guilt. Oh, all right, he muttered. But Percy'd better not see us. They slipped away, joining the Hufflepuffs going the other direction, then darted down a deserted side corridor. They had just turned the corner when they heard quick footsteps behind them. Percy, hissed Ron, pulling Harry behind a large stone griffin. But it wasn't Percy, it was Snape. He crossed the corridor and disappeared from view. What's he doing? Harry whispered. Why isn't he in the dungeons with the rest of the teachers? Search me. He's heading for the third floor, Harry noted, remembering Dumbledore's warning about the forbidden corridor. Before they could investigate further, another set of footsteps approached, this time the distinctive, measured cadence of Wednesday Addams. Harry, she called softly. I know you're there. Harry and Ron emerged from their hiding place. Wednesday? Harry was surprised. Shouldn't you be with the Slytherins? Hermione is missing, Wednesday stated flatly. Your probability of rescuing her without my assistance is low. How did you know we were going after her? Ron asked, bewildered. Wednesday gave him a pitying look. Because Harry would never leave a friend to be devoured by a troll. It's both his greatest strength and his most exploitable weakness. Thanks. I think, Harry said. Come on, we need to hurry. As they neared the girls' bathroom, a foul stench reached their nostrils, a mixture of old socks and the kind of public toilet no one seems to clean. And then they heard it, a low grunting, and the shuffling of gigantic feet. At the end of a passage to the left, they saw it, 12 feet tall, its skin a dull, granite gray, its lumpy body like a boulder with a small bald head perched on top, short legs thick as tree trunks. Magnificent, Wednesday whispered, her eyes gleaming in the dim light. Mountain troll. Highly resistant to magic. Limited intelligence but immense strength. How is that magnificent? Ron squeaked. The troll stopped next to a doorway and peered inside. It waggled its long ears, making up its tiny mind, then slouched slowly into the room. The key's in the lock, Harry muttered. We could lock it in. Good idea, said Ron nervously. That's the girls' bathroom, Wednesday pointed out. Harry's eyes widened in horror. Hermione. A high, terrified scream confirmed his worst fear. Ron turned pale, but Wednesday actually smiled, a rare, unsettling sight. Finally, she said, a proper Halloween. They burst into the bathroom to find Hermione Granger shrinking against the wall opposite, looking as if she was about to faint. The troll was advancing on her, knocking sinks off the walls as it went. Confuse it. Harry yelled desperately, seizing a tap and throwing it against the wall. The troll stopped, lumbering around to see what had made the noise. Its mean little eyes saw Harry. It hesitated, then made for him instead, lifting its club. Oi, pea-brain, yelled Ron from the other side of the chamber, throwing a metal pipe at it. The troll didn't even seem to notice the pipe hitting its shoulder, but it heard the yell and paused again, turning its ugly snout toward Ron, giving Harry time to run around it. Help me get to Hermione. Harry shouted. But before either boy could move, Wednesday stepped directly into the troll's path. The creature looked down at the tiny, braided girl who stared back with utter calm. Hello, she said conversationally. You've interrupted my friend's crying session. That's my job. The troll blinked stupidly. Wednesday raised her hands, and to the boy's astonishment, the shadows in the bathroom seemed to deepen and coalesce around her. I call upon the darkness, she intoned in a voice suddenly older than her years. Embrace this creature, cloud its mind, bend its will to mine. The shadows swirled up the troll's legs like living smoke. The creature's eyes widened in what appeared to be genuine fear, a remarkable expression on such a brutish face. What's she doing? Ron whispered, frozen in place. Old family magic, Harry whispered back. I've only seen Mother do this before. The troll dropped its club with a tremendous clatter and stared at Wednesday as if hypnotized. Slowly, the massive creature lowered itself to one knee, head bowed. Good, Wednesday said, her voice returning to normal. Now stay. The troll remained motionless as Harry darted around it to pull Hermione to her feet and toward the door. Ron edged along the wall, mouth hanging open, until he reached the girls. What, how? Hermione stammered. Later, Harry said firmly. We need to get out of here. Wednesday, still maintaining eye contact with the kneeling troll, backed slowly toward the door. I'm going to release you, she told the creature. When I do, you will not attack. You will sit quietly until morning, then find your way back to the forest. Nod if you understand. The troll gave a slow, ponderous nod. If you break this oath, Wednesday continued, I will know, and I will find you. The consequences would be unpleasant. She allowed the shadows to recede gradually. You may stand. The troll rose to its feet but remained docile, watching Wednesday with what looked remarkably like respect. A sudden slamming and loud footsteps made them all jump. They hadn't realized what a racket they had been making, but someone downstairs must have heard the crashes and the troll's roars. Professor McGonagall burst into the room, closely followed by Snape, with Quirrell bringing up the rear. The scene they encountered left them speechless, for first-years standing relatively calmly near the door, and a full-grown mountain troll standing placidly among the wreckage of the bathroom. What on earth were you thinking? Said Professor McGonagall, with cold fury in her voice. You're lucky you weren't killed. Why aren't you in your dormitories? Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me. Everyone turned to Hermione in surprise. I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own, you know, because I've read all about them. Ron dropped his wand. Hermione Granger, telling a downright lie to a teacher. If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now, Hermione continued, her voice steadying. They didn't have time to fetch anyone. It was about to finish me off when they arrived. But how did you manage to subdue it? Professor McGonagall demanded, looking between the four children and the bizarrely calm troll. Before any of them could answer, Quirrell, who had been examining the troll from a safe distance, spoke up. Fascinating. It appears to be under a sea-calming enchantment of some kind. Snape's dark eyes fixed on Wednesday. Miss Addams. Would you care to explain? Wednesday met his gaze unflinchingly. Simple behavioral modification, Professor. Trolls are more intelligent than they appear. With the right incentives, even the dullest creatures can be trained. Behavioral. McGonagall spluttered. That's highly advanced magic. Or perhaps no magic at all, Wednesday suggested. Merely an understanding of primitive psychology. Harry fought to keep his face neutral, knowing that what Wednesday had done went far beyond behavioral modification. It was ancient Addams family magic, the kind Grandmama said predated wands and incantations. Professor McGonagall seemed torn between disbelief and grudging admiration. Well, in that case, Miss Granger, foolish girl, how could you think of tackling a mountain troll on your own? Hermione hung her head. 5 points will be taken from Gryffindor for this, said Professor McGonagall. And 5 from Slytherin, Miss Addams, for being out of bounds. But... She hesitated, I must award points for the exceptional handling of a dangerous situation. 5 points each to Mr. Potter Addams and Mr. Weasley for sheer dumb luck, and 10 points to Miss Addams for quick thinking and extraordinary magical control. Snape gave Wednesday an evaluative look that contained a hint of something like respect. Professor Quirrell, perhaps you could escort this creature back to the mountains? McGonagall suggested. Since it seems manageable at present. And me? Quirrell looked horrified at the prospect. I believe the troll will find its own way home, Wednesday said calmly. It and I have an understanding. The adults exchanged glances, clearly at a loss for how to respond to this unusual statement. Well, McGonagall finally said, you'd all better return to your dormitories. The feast is being finished in the houses. They hurried out of the chamber, not speaking until they had climbed 2 floors up and were sure they were out of earshot. That was amazing, Ron burst out, looking at Wednesday with new respect. How did you do that shadow thing? Wednesday merely raised an eyebrow, saying nothing. We should have gotten more than 10 points, Ron grumbled. 5, you mean, once she's taken off Hermione's, Harry reminded him. Thanks for getting me out of trouble, Hermione said in a small voice. Mind control, shadow manipulation, and lying to teachers, Wednesday observed. You're making progress, Hermione. Hermione looked both horrified and flattered. What are friends for? Harry grinned. Now, about that feast, I'm starving. Troll hunting works up an appetite. From that moment on, Hermione Granger became the fourth member of their strange group. Some things knit people together permanently, and taking down a 12-foot mountain troll was one of them, especially when one of your new friends could command shadows and bend the creature to her will. November arrived, bringing with it bitterly cold weather and the start of the Quidditch season. Harry's first match against Slytherin approached rapidly, and despite his enthusiasm for the risk involved, even he felt occasional nerves about performing in front of the entire school. The morning of the match, Harry received a package at breakfast, another black box, this time accompanied by a letter written on the Addamses' distinctive black parchment. Dearest Harry, the entire family wishes you luck, or glorious injury, in your first Quidditch match. We're devastated we can't attend in person, though we tried. Dumbledore politely declined Father's offer to arrive via trebuchet launched from Hogsmeade. Enclosed, you'll find a few family good luck tokens, a preserved bat wing from the Addams family cave, sew it into your uniform near your heart, a vial of graveyard dirt from our ancestors' plot, sprinkle it on your broom for speed, and Cousin ITT special hair pomade, apply to your scalp for wind resistance. Play magnificently, darling, whether in victory or magnificent, bone-shattering defeat. Remember what great-grandfather Dimos always said, in competition as in life, victory goes to those willing to embrace catastrophic risk. All our love and darkness, Mother, Father, Pugsley, Lurch, Thing, and Grandmama. P.S. Wednesday reports that Professor Snape has been limping. How intriguing. Your father suggests investigating. Nothing brings young people together like uncovering faculty secrets. Harry grinned, showing the letter to Ron and Hermione, who had different reactions to its contents. Your family is encouraging you to spy on teachers? Hermione asked, scandalized. And they sent you bat wings and graveyard dirt? Ron added. That's, actually pretty cool in a weird way. Traditional Addams Lucky Charms, Harry confirmed, opening the box to show them the items. I'll sew the wing into my Quidditch robes before the match. Speaking of Snape, Hermione whispered, leaning closer, I saw his leg yesterday when he was having Filch bandage it in the staff room. Something took a real bite out of it. Harry's eyes gleamed with interest. And he was heading for the third floor on Halloween night when everyone else was dealing with the troll. What if he's trying to get past that three-headed dog? How do you know about Fluffy? Ron asked, startled. Fluffy? Harry and Hermione said together. Yeah, he's Hagrid's. I overheard him talking to my brother Charlie about it. Massive three-headed dog guarding something. Harry's face lit up. A proper Cerberus. Wednesday would love to meet it. No one should be trying to meet it. Hermione hissed. But you might be right about Snape. What if he's trying to steal whatever it's guarding? Only one way to find out, Harry said, pocketing his Addams Lucky Charms. But first, I have a Quidditch match to win. The weather couldn't have been more perfect for Harry's first match, clear, cold, and no wind to interfere with his broom's handling. In the locker room, Wood gave a pep talk while Harry discreetly sewed the bat wing into his robes and rubbed some of Cousin ITT's pomade into his perpetually messy hair. What is that smell? George Weasley asked, wrinkling his nose. Family hair product, Harry replied. Made from exotic ingredients. Smells like a tomb that's been sealed for a century, Fred commented. Harry beamed. Thank you. That's exactly the fragrance profile Mother was aiming for. As they marched onto the pitch, the roar of the crowd hit Harry like a physical force. Hundreds of faces looked down from the stands, many holding binoculars. He spotted Ron, Hermione, Neville, and Seamus in the top row with a large banner reading, Potter Addams for President, that flashed different colors and occasionally emitted small puffs of black smoke, Wednesday's contribution to the design. Speaking of his sister, Harry could see her in the Slytherin section, conspicuously not wearing her house colors and instead dressed entirely in black with a tiny green and silver pin as her only concession to house spirit. She caught his eye across the field and gave him the smallest of nods, which from Wednesday was equivalent to an enthusiastic cheer. Madame Hooch, refereeing the match, stood in the middle of the field waiting for the two teams, her broom in her hand. "Now, I want a nice fair game, all of you," she said once they were all gathered around her. Her eyes lingered on the Slytherin captain, Marcus Flint, a sixth year with distinct troll-like features. Harry mounted his Nimbus 2000, positioning himself exactly as Wood had instructed, and discreetly twisted the dial to faster. He briefly considered the Widowmaker setting but decided to save that for a truly desperate situation. Madame Hooch gave a loud blast on her silver whistle, and 15 brooms rose up into the air. The game had begun. And the quaffle is taken immediately by Angelina Johnson of Gryffindor. What an excellent chaser that girl is, and rather attractive, too, Jordan. Sorry, Professor. Lee Jordan, the Weasley twins' friend, was doing the commentary for the match, closely watched by Professor McGonagall. Harry soared above the action, scanning for the snitch as Wood had instructed, though he occasionally dipped lower when the bludgers came near, just for the thrill of a near miss. The modified Nimbus responded to his slightest touch, accelerating with a power that made Harry laugh out loud. "Addams appears to be enjoying his broomstick a bit too much," Jordan commented. "First years aren't supposed to have that much fun, Potter." "Potter Addams." Harry corrected loudly as he zoomed past the commentator's booth. The game proceeded at a breakneck pace. Gryffindor took an early lead, but the Slytherin team played rough, their beaters targeting the Gryffindor chasers with brutal precision. Harry kept circling the pitch, eyes peeled for the snitch while the Slytherin seeker, Terrence Higgs, shadowed him closely. "Slytherin in possession," Lee Jordan was saying. Flint with the quaffle, passes to Pusey, back to Flint, ouch, that must have hurt, hit in the face by a bludger, quaffle taken by Gryffindor, Johnson streaking down the pitch, look out for that bludger. Harry spotted it before Lee's warning, a bludger rocketing straight for Angelina's head. Without thinking, he dived, intercepting the bludger's path. The heavy iron ball slammed into his shoulder with a sickening crack, but Harry merely grinned through the pain. He'd redirected it just enough for Angelina to score. Potter Addams takes a bludger to save Johnson. Jordan screamed into the microphone. "That's dedication for a seeker." And Johnson scores. 10-0 to Gryffindor. Harry rolled his injured shoulder, feeling the familiar sensation of dislocated bone. With a practiced motion, he slammed himself against his broom handle, popping the joint back into place with an audible crunch that made nearby players wince. Did he just? Fred Weasley began, flying past. Reset his own shoulder. George finished, looking impressed. "Family specialty," Harry called back, already scanning for the snitch again. It was then that his broom gave a sudden, frightening lurch. For a split second, he thought he'd accidentally activated the Widowmaker setting, but the dial was still on faster. The broom lurched again, as though trying to buck him off. Harry tried to turn back toward the Gryffindor goal posts, intending to signal Wood for a timeout, but the broom seemed completely out of his control. He couldn't turn it. He couldn't direct it at all. It was zigzagging through the air, making violent swishing movements that nearly unseated him. Interesting, Harry muttered to himself, testing the broom's reactions. Not mechanical failure. External interference. Lee Jordan's commentary continued, oblivious to Harry's predicament. Slytherin in possession, Flint with the quaffle, passes to Spin Net, passes to Bell, hit hard in the face by a bludger, hope it broke his nose, only joking, Professor, Slytherin score, oh no. The Slytherins were cheering. No one seemed to have noticed that Harry's broom was behaving strangely, carrying him higher and higher away from the game, jerking and twitching as it went. If I fall from this height, Harry calculated aloud, approximately 80% chance of serious injury. Father would approve. Despite his Addams' appreciation for danger, Harry knew that dying in his first Quidditch match would be embarrassingly premature. He clung tightly to the handle as the broom began to roll over and over, with him only just managing to hold on. Then people were pointing up at him from below. The broom had started vibrating so hard, it was almost impossible to hang on. The whole crowd was on its feet, watching terrified as Harry dangled from the broom with one hand. "Someone's jinxing the broom," Harry heard Hermione's voice say, though she wasn't speaking to him. "She must be using omnioculars to watch the stands." Suddenly, the broom stopped trying to throw him off. Harry swung himself back on, noting that whatever interference had affected it seemed to have ceased. Looking down, he saw a small commotion in the teacher's stand, what appeared to be Snape's robes on fire, with several professors scrambling to help extinguish the flames. "Clever, Hermione," Harry murmured, making a mental note to thank her later. Now back in control, Harry pushed his broom into a steep dive, chasing something gold he'd spotted during his involuntary aerobatics. The Slytherin Seeker had seen it too and was racing alongside him. Neck and neck they hurtled toward the snitch. Harry's broom, even without the Widowmaker setting, was significantly faster. He could feel the snitch just inches from his fingertips when Flint deliberately body-slammed him, sending his broom spinning off course. "Foul!" screamed the Gryffindors. Madame Hooch spoke angrily to Flint and then ordered a free shot at the goal posts for Gryffindor. But in all the confusion, the snitch had disappeared again. Harry righted himself, a plan forming. "If that's how they want to play," he muttered, glancing down at his broom's setting dial. With a wicked grin, he twisted it all the way to Widowmaker. The effect was instantaneous. The broom vibrated ominously, then shot forward with such violent acceleration that the crowd gasped. Harry streaked across the pitch at a speed that made him little more than a scarlet blur, his robes flapping wildly behind him. "Potter Addams has gone berserk," Lee Jordan shouted. "I've never seen flying like this." Harry spotted the snitch again, hovering near the Slytherin goal posts. He aimed his supercharged broom directly at it, rocketing forward at a speed that made his eyes water. The Slytherin keeper, seeing what appeared to be a human missile heading straight for him, dived out of the way with a yelp of terror. The extreme velocity made precision control nearly impossible. As Harry reached for the snitch, his broom clipped the goal post, sending him into a wild spin. Rather than fighting it, Harry used the momentum, tucking himself into a ball and rolling right off his broom. He hit the ground hard, tumbling across the pitch in a series of bone-jarring somersaults. When he finally came to a stop, he got to his feet shakily, looking dazed. The stadium had gone completely silent. Then Harry grinned and held up his hand, where the golden snitch fluttered helplessly, caught during his spectacular crash. "I've got the snitch!" he shouted, and the game erupted into chaos. He didn't catch it, he nearly swallowed it. Flint was still howling 20 minutes later, but it made no difference. Harry hadn't broken any rules, and Lee Jordan was happily shouting the result. Gryffindor had won 170 points to 60. In the changing room afterward, the team surrounded Harry, simultaneously congratulating him and examining his numerous injuries. "That was the most reckless flying I've ever seen," Wood said, torn between delight at winning and horror at Harry's methods. "Brilliant, though," Fred exclaimed. "Completely mental," George agreed appreciatively. "What happened to your broom in the middle there? It looked like it was trying to throw you off." "Someone was jinxing it," Harry explained, wincing as he probed what felt like at least 2 cracked ribs. "Hermione thinks it was Snape. She set his robes on fire to break his concentration." "Snape?" Wood looked shocked. "Why would a teacher try to kill a student?" Harry shrugged. "We've been investigating him. He tried to get past that 3-headed dog on the 3rd floor on Halloween and got bitten. We think he's after whatever it's guarding." The team stared at him in disbelief. "3-headed dog?" Alicia Spinnet repeated faintly. "On the 3rd floor?" Katie Bell added. "Oh, didn't you know?" Harry asked innocently. I thought everyone had gone exploring by now. Anyway, I should get to the hospital wing. Mother will be disappointed if I don't document all my Quidditch injuries properly. He left his teammates exchanging bewildered looks, and made his way across the grounds to where Ron, Hermione, and Wednesday were waiting. That, said Ron, was either the most brilliant or the most idiotic flying I've ever seen. No need to choose, Harry grinned. It was both. You could have been killed. Hermione scolded. When your broom was jinxed, thank you for the timely intervention, Harry interrupted. Setting Snape on fire was inspired. Hermione blushed. I just remembered reading that eye contact is necessary for that kind of jinx. I had to break his concentration somehow. Effective, Wednesday nodded approvingly. Though personally, I would have used something more permanent than fire. Did you really have to use the Widowmaker setting? Ron asked. You literally crashed into the ground. That's how you know it's working, Harry replied cheerfully. Besides, we won. And confirmed Snape is up to something, Hermione added in a whisper. Why else would he jinx Harry's broom? Perhaps he wished to test Harry's survival instincts, Wednesday suggested. Or he simply appreciates a good near-death experience. Both reasonable motivations. Hermione looked at her incredulously. Those are not reasonable motivations for a teacher. Your conventional perspective on education is showing again, Hermione, Wednesday said flatly. Hospital wing first, Harry decided, clutching his ribs. Conspiracy theories second. I think I punctured something important. After the excitement of the Quidditch match and Harry's discovery that someone, presumably Snape, had tried to kill him, life at Hogwarts might have seemed anticlimactic. Instead, it only grew more interesting as December arrived, bringing with it a blanket of snow and preparations for the Christmas holidays. One morning in mid-December, the students awoke to find Hogwarts covered in several feet of snow. The lake froze solid, and the Weasley twins were punished for bewitching several snowballs to follow Quirrell around, bouncing off the back of his turban. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Wednesday had taken to spending their free time in the library, researching Nicholas Flamel, a name Hagrid had accidentally let slip when they questioned him about what the three-headed dog might be guarding. Nothing, Ron groaned, slamming another massive tome shut. There's nothing about Flamel anywhere. There must be, Hermione insisted, surrounded by piles of books. Hagrid mentioned him in connection with Dumbledore, so he must be a significant wizard. Perhaps we're looking in the wrong sections, Wednesday suggested, her dark eyes scanning the library. The restricted section would have more, informative texts. We can't get in there without a teacher's note, Hermione reminded her. Obstacles exist to be overcome, Wednesday replied cryptically. We could ask your parents over Christmas, Ron suggested to Harry and Wednesday. They might know who Flamel is. Good idea, Harry nodded. Speaking of Christmas, have you all decided? Mother and Father invited everyone to the mansion for the holidays. Ron looked both excited and terrified. My parents said I could go. Mum seemed a bit nervous, asked a lot of questions about safety precautions at your house. What did you tell her? Harry asked. That there weren't any, Ron admitted. She nearly changed her mind until Dad convinced her it would be culturally educational. Hermione sighed. My parents were hesitant too, especially after I mentioned the quicksand pit. But they eventually agreed, saying it would be good for me to experience diverse home environments. Excellent, Wednesday said. Mother will be pleased. She's planning a traditional Addams Yuletide celebration. The ritual sacrifices have already begun. Hermione's eyes widened. Ritual, sacrifices? Traditional holiday tree decorations, Harry clarified quickly. Handmade family ornaments. Very festive. He caught Wednesday's eye, silently communicating that some Addams traditions might need to be modified for their guests. She gave a barely perceptible nod of understanding. The following week, as the holiday break approached, McGonagall came around collecting names of students staying at Hogwarts for Christmas. Harry signed up to leave, feeling a mixture of excitement at showing his friends the Addams mansion and concern about how they might react to his family's enthusiastic holiday celebrations. On their last evening before departure, Harry decided to use his invisibility cloak, a family heirloom Grandmama had sent him for Halloween, to explore the restricted section of the library for information on Flamel. "I still don't think this is a good idea," Hermione whispered as Harry prepared to leave the common room. "What if you get caught?" "Impossible," Harry assured her. "This cloak has been in the Addams family for generations. Grandmother said it has special properties. It doesn't just make you invisible, it obscures your life force or something. Very useful for grave robbing, apparently." Hermione looked horrified. "Your family uses invisibility cloaks for grave robbing?" "Only for archaeological purposes," Harry amended quickly. "Or to retrieve family heirlooms mistakenly buried with the wrong relatives. Completely legitimate reasons." "Just be careful," Ron warned. "Fred and George say Filch has a sixth sense about students out of bed." Under the cloak, Harry made his way to the library without incident. The restricted section was at the back, roped off from the rest of the library with a dim lamp illuminating the warning sign. Harry ducked under the rope and held his lamp high to read the titles. They didn't tell him much. Their peeling, faded gold letters spelled words in languages Harry couldn't understand. Some had no title at all. One book had a dark stain on it that looked horribly like blood. The hairs on the back of Harry's neck prickled. Maybe he was imagining it, maybe not, but he thought a faint whispering was coming from the books, as if they knew someone was there who shouldn't be. "Fascinating," Harry murmured, reaching for a particularly ominous-looking volume bound in what appeared to be human skin. Wednesday would love this section. As he pulled it from the shelf, the book emitted a blood-curdling shriek that echoed through the silent library. Harry quickly stuffed the book back on the shelf, but it was too late. He heard footsteps coming down the corridor outside. Extinguishing his lamp, he ducked under the cloak just as Filch appeared in the library doorway, his pale, wild eyes looking straight through Harry. "Who's there?" Filch called. "I know you're in here. You can't hide." Harry backed away silently, slipping past Filch into the corridor. He moved quickly, taking an unfamiliar route to avoid Mrs. Norris, whom he could hear prowling nearby. Lost and disoriented, he found himself in an unused classroom, where something unusual caught his eye, a magnificent mirror, as high as the ceiling, with an ornate gold frame, standing on two clawed feet. There was an inscription carved around the top, Erised stra eru oit ube kafru oit onwosi. Curious, Harry stepped in front of the mirror, and had to clap his hands to his mouth to prevent himself from screaming. He had seen not only himself in the mirror, but a whole crowd of people standing behind him. But the room was empty. Heart racing, he looked behind him, then back at the mirror. There they were, his family, but not just the Addamses. Standing directly behind his reflection were a man and woman Harry recognized instantly from the few photographs he'd seen, James and Lily Potter. "Mom. Dad," he whispered, reaching out to touch the glass. They smiled at him, James with Harry's same untidy black hair and glasses, Lily with Harry's green eyes, her face full of love. Behind them stood the Addamses, Gomez and Morticia. "Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Start the next chapter here." The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.